The hidden power of Obatalá, secrets, protection, and spiritual transformation. You won't hear him coming. There is no thunder in his footsteps, no fire in his breath. And yet, when Obatalá enters a space, everything else leaves. He does not demand silence. He is silence. Long before you learned how to pray, long before your ancestors traced symbols in dust and blood, long before fear and chaos ruled your nights, there was Obatalá. He is not only the Orisha of peace, he is the guardian of your head, your Ori, your destiny's throne. And to speak his name is to invite stillness into the storm of your life. But this peace is not comfort, and the silence he brings is not emptiness. It is a mirror. And mirrors, when held by divine hands, do not reflect who you pretend to be. They show you everything. The wounds you've buried, the rage you disguise as strength, the questions you've silenced with distractions. This is why few truly invoke him. Because Obatalá does not answer noise. He responds to readiness. Let me take you to a place, a high mountain, no path, no markers, just air so still it feels like the sky has stopped breathing. This is where he lives, in myth, in memory, in the silence above the storms. Because while other Orishas bring fire, wind, thunder, and revolution, Obatalá waits in stillness, watching, judging nothing, but correcting everything that dares to stand misaligned. Many seekers think they want peace. They light candles, wear white, whisper prayers they found in books. But peace, in the world of Obatalá, is a responsibility. It is earned, not given. It is sculpted, not gifted. You see, he is the original sculptor of human form, chosen by Olodumare to descend with the divine chain and shape life from sacred clay. It was he who gave humanity its shape, and more importantly, its mind. But there is a secret in that story, a secret few share, a mistake, a shame, a divine misstep that marked Obatalá forever and made him more powerful because of it. This is where our story begins, not with light, but with failure, with pain, with a flawed creation that became the foundation of mercy. And you must understand this. Obatalá is not purity because he has never erred. He is purity because he chose to rise from error without pride. So when you call on him, do not come clean, come honest, because his energy does not cleanse you. It unmasks you. It strips away every excuse you've worn, every mask you've crafted, every belief you've built to protect your ego. He does not burn you down like Shango. He does not twist your path like Elegua. He holds you still until your own soul begins to tremble. And if you stay long enough in that stillness, something miraculous begins to happen. The thoughts you couldn't control begin to settle. The fear that never left your chest softens. The voice that's never been yours goes quiet. And then, finally, you begin to hear your Ori, your own divine head, speaking clearly for the first time. That is Obatalá, the Orisha who sculpts not with force, but with truth. But to know this power, to walk with it, to wear his color and not drown in his silence, you must understand his beginning, the story that shaped the shaper. Let us now descend into the birth of divinity, where even gods are tested. The origins of Obatalá, the sculptor of flesh and destiny. In the beginning, before time had rhythm, before earth had shape, there was chaos, raw, unformed, and restless. Olodumare, the supreme being, looked upon this formless expanse and willed it into balance. But balance required a hand, a sculptor, one who could bring shape to silence, order to chaos, form to the formless. That hand was Obatalá. He was not born like the others, he was chosen. While the other Orishas played in the divine realms, Obatalá was given the most delicate task: descend to the unborn earth and build a world fit for destiny. It was a sacred mission, and one few dared to take. To mold land from water, to sculpt beings from earth, to carve the human body with reverence. This was no task for a warrior or a trickster. It was a work of stillness, vision, and deep listening. Obatalá accepted. He descended with the chain of descent, a divine link between heavens and earth. In his hands he carried the sacred tools of creation, iron implements, a white hen and a palm seed. With these he would shape continents, plant the first life, and breathe a rhythm into silence. And so, from the breath of the heavens and the bones of the earth, the first land was born. But Obatalà's true gift was not in shaping land. It was in shaping us. When it came time to create humans, it was Obatalá who was trusted to do what no other had done. He went to the sacred river, gathered clay, and began his work. But he did not simply shape arms and legs. He shaped essence. He sculpted each body with intention. And when he reached the head, he did not sculpt it randomly. He created it as a throne. That is why in Yoruba cosmology, your head, your ori, is sacred. It is not just part of your body. It is the divine seat of your personal destiny. Your ori is your compass, your spiritual GPS, your filter of fate. And Obatalá was its architect. To understand Obatalá is to understand this. He did not just shape flesh. He shaped meaning. But divine missions are never so simple. For even in the heavenly blueprint, the chaos of creation found a crack. Obatalá, pure as he was, carried a flaw that would leave a scar not only on him, but on the very people he created. A scar that would follow him through eternity. And it happened during one of his sacred acts of creation, when the divine became momentarily human. This moment changed everything. It is the shadow few mention when they speak of his light, and yet it is through this shadow that Obatalà's true greatness was revealed. But before we touch that truth, understand this. The Orishas were not just forces, they were archetypes, and Obatalá represented more than peace. He embodied cosmic responsibility. He was the one who bore the burden of shaping what others would later rule, fight for, or manipulate. Every scar carved into the world began with a line drawn by Obatalà's hand. And unlike others who ruled with might or illusion, Obatalá ruled with restraint. His power was not in doing, it was in deciding when not to. And that is the most divine trait of all, discipline without pride. Even today, in rituals across the Afro Caribbean diaspora, the invocation of Obatalá does not begin with noise. It begins with surrender. His children wear white not for fashion, but to reflect the stillness he created. And when the head is blessed in his name, it is not simply a protection, it is a remembering of your original shape. Because before the world wounded you, before trauma twisted your vision, before ego built masks upon your face, your ori was whole, and Obatalá shaped it that way. His silence is not absence, it is invitation, to return, to align, to be reformed. But what happens when the shaper himself stumbles? When the one chosen to build breaks? The next part of our journey reveals a truth hidden behind generations of myth, that even the hands of a god can tremble. And when they do, the world changes forever. Let us now uncover the great mistake, and how divine humility became Obatalà's ultimate strength. The great mistake, divine humility in the hands of a god. No myth is sacred unless it reveals the shadow beneath the light. And Obatalá, though sculptor of flesh and guardian of destiny, was never beyond flaw. It is in this hidden chapter of his story that we witness not only a god's fall, but the birth of his compassion, his discipline, and his eternal role as protector of the vulnerable. It began on a day like any other. The clay was gathered, the sacred implements laid before him. Obatalá, charged with shaping more human beings, prepared to begin. But the journey to earth is long, and the burden of creating consciousness, of building not just bodies, but fates, wears even on divine shoulders. And so, in a moment of fatigue, Obatalá drank. The palm wine, a gift from earth itself, was sweet and numbing. Its warmth crept into his spirit, and for the first time, his hands no longer followed the exact rhythm of divine will. They trembled. He sculpted anyway. He shaped heads, bodies, legs, but not as he had before. The symmetry faltered. Limbs took new forms. Mouths closed differently. Backs curved. Movements, when life entered them, were unlike the others. These humans, born of a drunk god's hand, were not broken, but they were different. When Obatalá sobered and saw what he had done, the shame fell upon him like a mountain. He, who was trusted with sacred balance, had let imperfection slip through divine hands. In that moment, he could have hidden his error, denied it, buried it in silence. But he did something no other Orisha had done. He owned it. He climbed the heights of the sacred mountain, knelt before Olodumare, and confessed. With tears not of water, but of spirit, he said, "I failed. I was entrusted with destiny, and I brought distortion." And what did Olodumare say? Nothing, because even gods must sit in silence after they fall. But Obatalá did not retreat. He did not beg for restoration. Instead, he made a vow that those he had shaped in his moment of weakness, the blind, the deaf, the physically or mentally different, would forever be his children, and he would protect them with more devotion than the perfect, because in their difference lived the echo of his humanity. From that day forward, Obatalá became not only the creator of Ori, but the defender of every head shaped in struggle. He became the guardian of those who feel out of place, whose bodies or minds don't match the world's definition of whole, because he had made them, and in them his humility became holy. This is why his followers say, Obatalá does not abandon the flawed, he chooses them. In many spiritual houses, those who live with physical or mental disabilities are considered sacred to Obatalá, not out of pity, but out of reverence. They remind the world that even the divine can err, and in that error, find redemption. This story shatters the illusion of perfection we often assign to deities, and yet, it is precisely what makes Obatalá more powerful than the others. For what is strength, if not the courage to face your reflection after you've failed? Even now, when his devotees prepare offerings, they do so with careful hands. No palm wine touches his altar. No impurity is allowed. His space is clean, not just in color, but in intention, because every ritual performed in his name is a silent acknowledgement of that ancient mistake and a promise not to repeat it. And so, Obatalá's energy became even more refined. His power no longer existed only in his ability to create, but in his choice to correct. And when he sees disorder in a soul, he does not cast it out in anger. He realigns it with precision, the same way he realigned himself. He teaches that failure does not disqualify you from destiny, it prepares you for it. And that is what makes him feared, not for wrath, but for uncompromising clarity. He will show you where you fell, and ask what you've learned. He will hold your head in his hands, not to punish, but to purify. So when you call on Obatalá, do not ask only for peace, ask for humility. Ask for the strength to look at what you've made of yourself, and the courage to reshape it. But if humility was the first test, the next one would come not from within, but from the heavens themselves, a rebellion, a disruption, a moment when silence would no longer be enough. And when the divine order trembled, it was Obatalá, gentle, serene, and scarred, who picked up the sword. What happens when peace must fight? Let us now step into the hidden path of Ajaguna, the silent warrior who does not shout, but corrects with steel. The silent warrior, Ajaguna, the steel within the white robe. Not all battles begin with noise. Some begin in stillness, when divine order is threatened, and the calmest force must rise to restore what others have shattered. There was a time, long after creation had taken form, when the Orisha realms grew restless. Pride began to creep into the hearts of spirits. Power turned inward, rivalries festered in silence, and slowly the harmony that once danced between heaven and earth began to bend. Chaos did not announce itself with thunder. It crept in like a whisper, deceit hidden behind ritual, ego cloaked in devotion. Some Orishas argued, others withdrew, but none could bring correction. Because correction, when it is true, must come from a force unshaken by chaos. And so it was Obatalá, the Orisha of serenity, who rose. But not in the form known to most. In the deepest silence, a shift occurred within him. The robe remained white, the staff transformed, and in his hand appeared the blade of Ajaguna. Ajaguna is not another Orisha. He is Obatalá in his path of war, his avatar of holy discipline, unshakable order, and divine enforcement. He does not scream, he does not threaten, he simply arrives, and everything changes. To walk the path of Ajaguna is to understand a secret, that true peace does not exist without the willingness to protect it. In this form, Obatalá carries not softness, but steel. And that steel is not for blood, it is for ego. It cuts through illusions. It slices the spiritual masks that people wear to manipulate sacred space. And when Ajaguna is invoked, even the proudest spirit kneels, not from fear, but from recognition. Because nothing stands in the presence of a God who no longer needs to prove himself. Ajaguna teaches that when peace is threatened, stillness becomes a sword. And unlike the thunder of Shango or the winds of Oya, Ajaguna's justice is surgical. It does not destroy, it corrects. It does not punish, it restores balance. This is why his path is both revered and feared. Because when Ajaguna is called, the truth appears, and truth is rarely comfortable. In spiritual houses across the world, there are moments when everything becomes heavy. A ritual that should feel light becomes intense. The air shifts, conversations slow, and the elders say quietly, Ajaguna is here. He arrives when sacred boundaries are crossed, when someone pretends to be clean but carries poison, when a leader hides ego behind invocation, when clarity is needed, but no one dares speak. Ajaguna speaks with energy, not voice. And yet, few initiates dare invoke him directly, because his presence demands total alignment. If your Ori is confused, if your heart holds grudges, if your hands are unclean with secret intentions, he will not come gently. He will come to correct you first. That is why only the most disciplined spiritual warriors walk his path. There are stories passed from elder to apprentice of devotees who once called Ajaguna in times of injustice. And instead of punishing the one they blamed, Ajaguna revealed their own hidden pride. Because in his presence, no one is innocent. Only those who seek alignment over victory can stand in his silence. And yet, his protection is unmatched. It is said that when Ajaguna guards your Ori, no hex, curse, envy, or mal de ojo can touch you. Not because he blocks them, but because his energy transforms your presence. You become untouchable, not through fear, but through order. Imagine walking through a crowd, and every chaos around you pauses, not because you fight, but because your energy carries the frequency of correction. That is Ajaguna living inside you. But to carry that energy, you must become a vessel, a living altar. You must live in truth, move with clarity, speak with purpose, and act from alignment, not impulse. And this path is not walked in noise. It is walked in ritual. White clothes, clean hands, sharp thoughts, aligned Ori. This is not for performance. It is for transformation. Because when you wear the white robe and carry disorder inside, Ajaguna will not protect you. He will confront you, and your peace will shatter, so it can be rebuilt on solid ground. So now you know. Obatalá is not only the gentle father, he is also the sword hidden in silence. But if the blade corrects, what then protects? How does Obatalá, both sculptor and warrior, shield the soul from distortion in everyday life? The answer lies not in fighting, but in symbols. In the sacred items, rituals, and silences that weave protection into your spirit before danger arrives. Let us now enter the world of sacred tools, the language of Obatalá's guardianship. Symbols, tools, and sacred silence, the language of divine protection. Protection in the world of Obatalá is not a wall. It is a frequency. To the uninitiated eye, it may appear as a white cloth draped gently over an altar, a silver object resting silently on sacred ground, or a bowl of cool water placed beneath a window. But to those who understand, each item whispers a powerful command to the unseen world. Order reigns here. Distortion has no entry. These are not decorations. They are codes. Obatalá does not protect with noise. He protects with symbols, physical objects that carry spiritual resonance. And the most sacred of these is white. White is not just a color, it is a shield of clarity. It repels chaos not because it fights it, but because it cannot coexist with it. When Obatalà's devotees wear white, they are not simply dressing in ritual. They are aligning their frequency with his. They are declaring to the world, I choose stillness, I choose discipline, I carry the mirror of truth. But white without silence is empty. That is why Obatalà's greatest ritual tool is not what you place on the altar, it's what you remove from the room. Noise, impulse, ego. These are offerings he does not accept. In the preparation of an altar, every action must be intentional. You do not clean the space just to tidy. It is to calibrate. The cloth must be untouched by heat. The implements, often silver, must shine not for beauty, but for reflection. Silver holds moonlight. It is the metal of internal truth. It absorbs lies like salt pulls poison. It has no place for distortion. The staff, or Obatalá, is not a weapon. It is a scepter of alignment, a reminder that true power stands still. In many traditions, it is placed vertically on the altar, not to dominate, but to direct. It points upward, toward the source. It says, I walk upright, I stand in truth. And then there is cotton, soft, absorbent, simple. Cotton, in Obatalà's ritual world, is the essence of softness that is never weak. It wraps the sacred. It protects items of power. It represents the gentleness that can still carry thunder. But the most overlooked tool is omiero. This is the sacred herbal water used in baths and cleansings. Each herb must be chosen carefully. No fiery leaves, no cutting plants, only cooling herbs, calming, centering, restorative. Because in the world of Obatalá, purification is not abrasion, it is alignment. When devotees prepare an omiero bath, they do so in silence. Their hands are slow, their thoughts are prayers. They crush the leaves not to destroy, but to release their truth. And when they bathe in it, it is not to wash dirt, it is to remove noise. The noise of the world, the noise of fear, the noise of the mind, because clarity is protection. And this is the mystery that many miss. Protection is not something you wear, it is something you become. You can hold all the tools, you can perform every ritual. But if your Ori, the head, the seat of your consciousness, is chaotic, then the tools will not speak on your behalf. Obatalá listens to vibration, not ritual for its own sake. This is why silence is sacred. In spiritual sessions, when the energy is heavy, it is not always song or chant that clears the space. Sometimes the elder raises a hand and simply stops everything. No words, just silence. And in that silence, Obatalá enters. It is in the breath between thoughts that he arrives. And so, to invite his protection is to prepare your life like an altar, to live in a way that repels distortion by nature, to walk gently but with conviction, to speak rarely but with precision, to act not from emotion but from awareness. You become your own sacred tool, but this is not learned in a day. It is shaped over time, in daily choices, in the way you react, in the way you sit with discomfort. That's how you know Obatalá is near, not by what changes around you, but by what quiets within you. And once the silence becomes a home, once the symbols begin to live in your movements, something begins to shift in your spirit. You no longer reach for protection because you realize you are the protection. But how does one maintain that presence? How does a seeker become a vessel, and a vessel become a living altar? How do you walk not just in ritual, but in transformation? That is the next layer of the sculptor's mystery. Let us now go inward, to the sacred space of Ori, where the true temple of Obatalá was built. The inner transformation, Ori as altar. You have heard his name. You have seen the robe. You have touched the tools. But none of it matters if your Ori is out of alignment. In Yoruba cosmology, the Ori is not just the head. It is your personal God. It is the spark of divine will living inside you, the compass that guides you through destiny. And Obatalá, the shaper of human form, was given one of the most delicate tasks in all creation, not just to craft the body, but to seat the divine within the human. That is what makes his path sacred beyond words. He is not simply an Orisha you call upon. He is the force that formed the place within you where all others arrive. When you light a candle, sing a prayer, or perform a ritual, who hears it first? Not the heavens, not the spirits. Your Ori. It is the first listener, the first judge, the first gate. And if that gate is closed, twisted, or ignored, nothing will pass through it cleanly. That is why the path of Obatalá is not about controlling the outside world. It is about mastering the inside. Because the altar of Obatalá is not made of wood and cotton alone. It is built in your thoughts, in your breath, in the quiet decisions you make when no one is watching. He does not live only in temples. He lives in you if your Ori can hold him. But here lies the deepest truth few want to face. Your Ori can betray you. When your mind is filled with anger, envy, lies, confusion, it doesn't just block blessings, it warps them. Even the cleanest ritual becomes distorted when filtered through a chaotic head. You may call on Obatalá for peace, but your Ori will translate that prayer into avoidance, pride, or illusion if you have not yet purified it. So how do you begin? Start by becoming still, not in body, but in mind. Observe your thoughts, not with judgment, but with curiosity. Ask, is this thought from fear or from alignment? Is it reactive or is it wise? Obatalá does not ask for you to be perfect. He asks for you to be present. The journey of spiritual transformation begins not in visions or possessions, but in subtle shifts. You begin to pause before reacting. You begin to choose truth, even when it's painful. You begin to let go, not to avoid, but to trust. This is Obatalá reshaping your Ori, and this transformation is not always gentle. Sometimes it looks like breakdown, like isolation, like nothing makes sense anymore. Because when clarity begins to emerge, all that is false must collapse. But if you stay with the process, if you sit in the discomfort, your Ori begins to quiet. Not numbness, but true silence, the kind that listens to life before trying to change it. And then, something sacred happens. Your head becomes a mirror, like Obatalá's altar. People begin to feel it. They speak to you differently. They slow down around you, not because you are loud, but because your presence carries weight. You've done what most never will. You've aligned your inner altar. And now, your rituals have power not because of tools, but because of truth. There are no shortcuts to this. You cannot bypass the work with prayers. You cannot skip discipline through devotion. Obatalá teaches that your external life is a reflection of your internal sculpture. If there is chaos around you, look within. If people misunderstand you, ask what message your energy is sending. If your spirit feels heavy, don't blame the world. Look to your Ori. Because once your Ori becomes clean, your destiny opens, and Obatalá walks with those who honor the throne he gave them. He walks silently, but powerfully. You'll know he's near when choices feel easier, when burdens lose weight, when the right people begin to arrive, and the wrong ones begin to fade. You won't need confirmation. Your Ori will know. And from that inner altar, you begin to move differently. You speak with less, but say more. You walk slower, but arrive faster. You need less, but feel full. This is the transformation no one sees coming. The sculptor begins with clay, but he finishes with consciousness. And when that consciousness is aligned, your life becomes a ritual. Every breath, a prayer. Every step, a rite. But there is one more step. Because Obatalá's energy, once integrated, is never just for you. Now that you've become still, now that your Ori has become a vessel, the question remains, what do you do with that power? Let us now move into the next sacred phase, the path of spiritual service and radiating protection, not just inwardly, but into the world around you. Radiating protection, becoming a spiritual anchor. It is said that when your Ori is aligned, you no longer walk, you move the air around you. People feel it before they understand it. A presence that slows the room. A calm that breaks tension. An energy that does not ask to be respected, but is. That is the mark of a spirit who walks with Obatalá not just on the altar, but in the blood, in the breath, in the way they live. You see, true protection is not something you perform. It is something you embody. When you become an anchor for others, it's not because you shouted louder or wore whiter. It's because you've been purified through stillness. You've gone deep into yourself, faced the ego, lost the need to be right, and emerged disciplined by silence. And now, your presence speaks, without noise, without effort. This is what Obatalá offers to those who walk his path with humility, not escape from chaos, but immunity to it. You are no longer shaken by storms. You become the mountain that the storm cannot move. People begin to come to you, not because you advertise wisdom, but because they recognize a vibration in you they've forgotten in themselves. They come not for answers, but for remembrance. And through you, Obatalá speaks without words. But this role is not glamorous. It is not easy. It is not a title. It is a service. To carry Obatalá's energy is to accept the weight of clarity. You must be the one who sees what others miss, who stays centered when others scatter, who listens when everyone else talks, and most importantly, who does not let ego speak louder than the stillness you were given. You become a mirror for others, and mirrors do not flatter. They reveal. That's why those who truly radiate protection often walk alone for a time. The world misreads stillness as weakness, quiet as passivity, but eventually those who need you will find you, because stillness is magnetic. Alignment is irresistible to the lost. This is not about becoming a priest or being initiated. This is about becoming useful to spirit. You protect others when you do not add to their confusion, when your energy does not pull them off course but helps them find their center. You become a guardian not through spells, but through stability. In many Afro Caribbean traditions, there are elders who rarely speak. They sit, they observe, they do not react. But when they do speak, people listen, not because of fear, but because the words are pure. They are not opinions, they are not projections, they are truth, sharpened by silence. That is Obatalá in action. You may find that after walking this path, your relationships change. People who thrived on your chaos may disappear. Those addicted to conflict may push against your peace. Some may even accuse you of being distant, cold, too quiet. Do not react. They are not rejecting you. They are rejecting their own reflection. Because once you begin to radiate protection, you become a light, and light reveals, and not everyone is ready to be seen. But those who are truly ready, they will find peace just by sitting near you, and you won't need to say a thing, because their Ori will recognize yours. Their soul will remember something yours is already living. That is spiritual leadership without title, influence without ego, protection without performance. Obatalá does not raise kings and queens for their crowns. He raises them for their capacity to carry silence without collapsing into it, to walk slowly in a world of panic, to hold presence in a room full of noise, to love with boundaries, to speak with precision, to correct without shame. But even in this elevation, the path is not over, because the weight of white, the energy of Obatalá, is heavy. And once you begin to carry it, life will test you. Let us now enter the sacred chapter few speak of, the hidden trials of those who dare to walk as reflections of the Orisha of clarity, because it is one thing to wear white. It is another to survive its gaze, the weight of wearing white, a devotee's trials. To the world, it is just a color. To the devotee, it is a vow. White, worn in the name of Obatalá, is not fabric. It is fire disguised as snow. It is a commitment written not in ink, but in silence, in discipline, in unseen sacrifice. And once you put it on with intention, the world begins to respond to you differently, not because you have changed your clothes, but because you have declared, I choose alignment over approval. But here is what they rarely tell you. White will test you. When you wear Obatalá's color, you invite not only his blessings, but his gaze. And he does not only look at what others see, he watches the hidden, the almost. the almost lie, the almost anger, the almost compromise. And he corrects. Because white demands congruence. The trials of a devotee often begin the moment they seek purity with their mouth, but carry contradiction in their heart. Life responds with mirrors, people who test your patience, situations that provoke your ego, losses that demand clarity in the midst of grief. Why? Because Obatalà's peace is not passive, it is earned. The elder who wears white but gossips? Watch their life unravel slowly. The initiate who walks in ritual but avoids silence? Watch how their ori grows restless. Because the robe is not a costume, it is a contract. And the spirit world honors contracts. It is said in many lineages that those walking with Obatalá must abstain from heat, not just in food, but in behavior. No quick tempers, no intoxicants, no indulgence in the fires of the lower self. But these are not restrictions, they are refinements. They are not meant to shrink your humanity, but to elevate your energy. You are asked to live in a way that allows clarity to flow through you without distortion. And that is not easy. There will be days when you are misunderstood, when people accuse you of arrogance because you choose silence, when others see your restraint as weakness, when you are pushed to react, to fight, to defend, but your ori says, be still. In those moments, you will feel the robe grow heavy. Because white, as a spiritual frequency, repels what is false, and the more you embody it, the more illusions around you will start to fall. Relationships built on control will end. Jobs that required you to betray your integrity will dissolve. Even dreams, if rooted in ego, will fade. Not as punishment, but as purification. This is where many stop. They think they are cursed. They think the rituals failed. But in truth, the alignment is working. Obatalá is stripping away everything that cannot live in the frequency you asked for. The question is, will you let go? Can you walk with the weight of white even when it leaves you alone? Can you hold clarity when confusion would be easier? Can you protect your ori when everyone else is protecting their pride? Because if you can, something rare begins to occur. You begin to see life differently. You no longer interpret events as attacks, but as corrections. You no longer cling to control, because you trust the design. You no longer need to fight every enemy, because most of them are just reflections of who you used to be. And then, one day, without realizing it, you become the robe. You no longer wear Obatalà's energy. You carry it in your voice, in your decisions, in your way of being. And people begin to say, there's something about you, I can't explain it. That is not mystery, that is alignment. But remember, even in this elevation, humility is the thread that holds everything together. The moment you believe you have arrived is the moment the tests will return. Because white is not a destination, it is a daily decision. To wear it in action, in restraint, in forgiveness, in clarity. And so we arrive at the final threshold. You have walked with the sculptor. You have felt the silence. You have touched the sword. You have purified your ori. You have stood under the weight of white. Now what will you do with it? The robe is not the end. It is the beginning of a deeper question. Let us step into our final space, where silence becomes ritual and presence becomes legacy. The sculptor's question, now that the silence has settled and your ori has walked through creation, error, correction, stillness, alignment, and transformation. One question remains. What will you do with what you now carry? Obatalá does not seek followers. He does not hunger for praise. He does not need to be worshipped with loud songs or endless offerings. He watches for one thing only: the soul that chooses clarity over comfort. If you have walked this far, truly walked, not just listened with ears but with spirit, then you know that his power is not in miracles. It is in the discipline of presence, in the art of slowing down, of not reacting, of holding space inside yourself where the sacred can speak without interruption. You now know the real secret. The hidden power of Obatalá was never buried in myth. It was buried in you. It is the part of you that remembers how to breathe before speaking, how to observe before judging, how to release before possessing, and above all, how to walk through a chaotic world without becoming part of its distortion. That is the living ritual. That is the white flame. But a journey like this should never end in thought alone. Let us complete it now in action, with a simple, intentional ritual to anchor what you've received. Ritual invitation. Tonight, when the noise of the world fades, prepare a small space. No incense, no chanting, just you, a white cloth, a bowl of cool water, and a candle, white, if possible. Place the cloth on the floor or a table. Set the bowl in its center, light the candle beside it, and sit. Do not speak. Do not ask. Just listen. Breathe. Let the silence arrive like an old friend. And when you feel something settle in your chest, not fear, not joy, just peace, dip your fingers in the water and touch your forehead gently. Say from your ori, not from your mouth, I am ready to be sculpted. I am ready to carry the silence. Then sit until the candle finishes, or until your thoughts do. This is how you begin the next chapter, not as a seeker, not even as a devotee, but as a vessel. Reflective call to action. If this journey stirred something deep within your spirit, if it reminded you of a truth you once knew but had forgotten, do not let it fade into another video. Comment below. Which moment in Obatalá's path spoke to you the loudest? Which silence changed you? And how will you walk differently from this day forward? Subscribe if your Ori is calling for more. This is not content. It is ceremony. And in our next gathering, we will enter one of the most veiled mysteries of all. The forbidden paths of Obatalá, those kept quiet by tradition, only shared through whispers in the inner rooms. But only for those whose silence is strong enough to carry the weight of truth. The sculptor has handed you the clay. Now mold your life.